Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. Very much an honor to be here. And yeah, if you saw the program, and everything's, there's a lot of synchronicity going on here with discussion of infinity. I'm here to talk about three things: infinity, good and bad, and momentum. And how they seem unrelated, but I'm hopefully going to weave a tapestry of understanding in the next few minutes here. And to start off with, let's do this, like I guess the best way to put it, a mental visual acuity test. I want you to imagine in your mind's eye two objects, just right at the edge of feedback. Two objects. Now, that's pretty easy to do. Let's go to four objects. That's pretty easy, too, to see actually four objects within your mind. But chances are they're not random. They might look like this in some pattern, because we like shorthand. Mental shorthand is good. We like things to line up. So with that in mind, how about imagining 12 things? You can kind of do that. It's right at the stretch, but it probably looks like that, doesn't it? Boxcars, right? That's an easy mental image for 12. So let's up the challenge a little bit. How about 100? I've tried this a number of times, and I can't get 10 rows of 10 where I can actually see them, or 5 rows of 20. So how can we possibly wrap our head around this idea of infinity? And we use it all the time, don't we? And the people in the mathematics department, I don't know if it was like 3:30 on a Friday when they got the problem of let's come up with something for infinity. And what do we get? An 8 turned sideways. This is not helping. This is not helping. Because infinity is big stuff. And I remember realizing that back, you remember when it was around in like 4th grade, somewhere in there, we like realized the power of words. And man, me and my friends were throwing the S-bomb and the F-bomb around, because they're adult words and they felt pretty good. And I remember imagining my dad hit his, finger with a hammer, and he could use one word and have a subject and a verb and an adjective and an adverb. What a versatile part of the language, and I can't use it as a kid. And then there was infinity as well. I remember, you get in those boasting matches. I used to play Indian ball with my cousin Denny down at the ball diamond by the firehouse, and we'd get in those little matches where, I can hit the ball twice as far as you can. Yeah, well, I can throw the ball 4 times farther than you can. Yeah, well, maybe, but I can run infinity times infinity faster than you can. And once you drop the I-bomb, it's kind of done. I mean, there's no argument left. But here, we are at the Center for Spiritual Living. And this is a place where we come every week to realize the divinity that lives within us and that we're part of something bigger. So to us, infinity is empowering. First of all, in the words of Abraham Hicks, it's like, you never get it right because you never get it done. It's a continuum. And we have this big canvas in front of us. Boundless abundance. Creativity beyond measure. Infinite possibilities. I remember it was about 12 years ago. I'm thinking about that. I went to the Gandhi Center. There was an invite to go to Paramahamsa Nityananda, had a meditation retreat for a Saturday. And I went to the Gandhi Center in the morning, and I saw some people here that were at CSL at the time, and a few people that I knew from other New Thought churches. And I just wanted to go. I've never seen a Swami before. I wanted to go, and I like to meditate. So I went there, and it wasn't exactly what I thought it was going to be. I went, and Swami's up on stage in his silks, and he starts, first of all, by telling us about his exploits in New York. He was telling us funny stories. It's like he's doing like a little comedy routine at first, but he's just warming us up. But then he got into the headier stuff, and he said this, and I still remember it on this topic. He said, if you believe you are here from an infinite God, and that God is based upon love, then you have to realize that everything is here for you before you ever got here. Everything you need to succeed. Whether it's what you want to do is stand out and look down on Central Park from your penthouse balcony. The penthouse is there for you, as well as the nice clothes and all the fancy things inside the penthouse. Or if all you want to do is sit down on the park bench and sleep there, the bench is there for you, as well as the rags and the bags you'll carry. So everything is always here for us in this idea of infinite possibility. But there's another aspect of infinite possibility, and that is it's a divine invitation to belong. The world's not going to be the same without you, without your compassion, without your unique talents, without your perspective, without your weirdness. There would be a small hole in there in the universe. It would not be infinite anymore if you were not here. Everything's here for us to succeed. But the thing is that we don't take in infinity all at once. It's a big thing. So what happens is we kind of wind our way through it, don't we? From decision to decision. And what causes us to do that is contrast. In its simplest terms, what is contrast? You know, if I'm a little cold, I put on a sweater. If I'm a little warm, I turn on the air conditioner. If I'm hungry, I go to the refrigerator and make a sandwich. If I'm satiated, I stand away from the table, or maybe I stay there and I eat too much and get uncomfortable. Now, that never happens. Or if I need some insight or I want to be enlightened, I'll go over to the Rising Thought bookstore maybe and find something to read or talk to a practitioner or something. Or I'll go on the internet where I could easily become more confused. But anyway, that's how our life works. And it's kind of like, here we are in Missouri, it's summertime. It's kind of like we're on a float trip, right? We drop our canoe in the water and we're moving. We're moving forward. And we're steering this way and that. We're making one choice at a time through infinite possibility. I'm going to steer a little bit on the inside. I'm going to miss that tree where the big snake is sunning because I respect his nap. And that leads me to my next topic, which is the subject of good and bad. Now, these are my good and bad boxes. You know, we all have them, right? They exist inside us. And of course, in here we have our lists, don't we? We have our lists. And my good and bad boxes are smaller than they used to be. And I realized that I had that insight from my sons. My sons are now young adults. And I remember from the time they were like just, like 3 or 4 years old, all the way up until their teens, these boxes were huge. Everything was either one. You either accept it or you reject it, right? And as they got life experience, as we all do, they get smaller because we realize that these are farther apart and there's more things in here that are acceptable and we learn to deal with. But another perspective on good and bad, from the start, is the idea that it's good is usually comfortable and bad is unknown. And we all can probably imagine that this is an offshoot of our limbic system. As Larry would say if he was here, the reptilian brain part of us, the part that has kept us alive for a long time. Because remember, it's always still within us. I mean, we're all in this safe environment right here and comfortable, but still, our senses are always monitoring for two things, threatening or non-threatening. It really still works that way. So good and bad can serve us, but it can also kind of get in our way. Good and bad, first of all, is exclusive. So as I look in my bad box here, I see something that, well, you know what? I mean, that's in the bad box, but there's part of it that's kind of good, But I'm going to leave it over here for now. And the same thing here is that this is good, but if I do it too much, this would be bad. You know, so you can take it. So it's exclusive. We put one in one box and the other, and we don't look at the bad box, and we just look at the good box, which means it's also divisive. It silos our world a little bit, and we don't want to have anything to do with it. Now, polarization goes on in everything we do, the yin and the yang, of course. As I mentioned before, back at the beginning, about the dots lining up, there's a tendency for us to take good and bad and line other parts of our human experience up in there, or other people do it for us. See if any of these fall into your good and bad boxes, just to throw them out there. Rich and poor, white collar, blue collar, Christian, Muslim, white and black, gay or straight, Republican, Democrat, liberal, conservative. Do any of those have a twinge? And how did they get there? Did you put them there, or did somebody else put them there? You're talking to a friend, and they come up to you and say, you know what? I saw a movie the other day, and it is really good. It's a good movie. And you find it on Netflix, and you watch. And you watch. And you watch. And it just never gets good. And you know, while you share similar tastes with a friend, it doesn't mean that everything's going to be that way. But here's the thing about that, is that if somebody else walks up to you and says, I heard that this is a really good movie, you may say, yeah, it's a good movie, and bypass the fact that because you didn't have the experience of seeing it. That's how propaganda is fueled, for example. You just pass on the same thing. And this idea about that happening leads me to my last topic, which is momentum. Back in 1687, Isaac Newton came up with the Principia Mathematica, and it would define 3 laws of motion. And one of those was momentum. And the law, for the purposes of this discussion, momentum kind of works like this. An object tends to stay in motion at a given speed and direction until acted upon by another force. And that's kind of gets back to how we're going down the river in our canoe, isn't it? We're being pushed along. And we have momentum from the very get-go, don't we? Think about some framing of our life right now. We're in the 21st century. We're in the United States of America, Missouri, St. Louis. We were born to certain parents. We may have been raised by them. We have certain siblings. We didn't have a choice in that, and we still scratch our heads about how that happened. But anyway, these are all things that frame the way we make our decisions from the very time we get here. And even along the way, our DNA is kind of that way too, isn't it? I mean, we're either male or female. We have a certain body shape. We have a certain skin color. And these will all have an effect on the way we see our world and the way we make our choices. And right now, I ask you to take a look at the way you're steering your course. Take a look at what's affecting the things that are in your good and bad boxes by looking at that. Because what's happening, there's a lot of turbulence going on right now, isn't there? That's what it seems to be on our river. Some pushing and shoving going on, not only on the world stage, but on the national stage and even in various neighborhoods. This momentum can get very polarizing and cause people to take sides. Just take sides. But I ask you to go back to where I started in our discussion. And look at the world through the lens of infinite possibility. Take these good and bad boxes and move them aside. And you may see something rather interesting. Oh, where am I at here? Notes to keep track. Don't want to miss anything. You see change agents going on, and they're rude and they're in our face. And we know these, we all have lived through personal ones. And as a matter of fact, some of them may have brought us in this building. Either, living through the challenge of an addiction or an illness, divorce, bankruptcy, all of these things that just rock our world and make it hard to steer. And it's brought us this far, and it's made us a little stronger in the process. That's what's happening kind of on the world stage right now. There's turbulence. And it's enhanced, of course, because of electronic media. We live in the age of information. So it's like right there in our face. The biggest things and the little tiny things that are happening in all these neighborhoods are right in front of us. So it is disturbing in a way. But it's interesting about this because I even just saw something last night about it with Robert Reich. I don't know if you're familiar with some of Robert's stuff. But he makes this point, too, that I was going to make in my talk today. His are more on a historical perspective, but mine are more on a metaphysical one, is that we are in a great period of change agents alive and well in the world. They are shouting at us right now between issues with the LGBTQ community, racial profiling still going on. But there's so many grassroots activism things that are happening. Me Too, Black Lives Matter. The kids of Parkland, Florida coming forward. These are teenagers coming forward and addressing a national issue in our world. So people are more involved than they ever have been. There are more women that are choosing to run for office than ever before. Yeah. And of course, we also see on the world stage our democracy getting challenged, which is interesting. Is the Constitution holding up? Well, I contend this. I think our forefathers would be pretty proud because, democracy is a messy business, but it's not a bloody business if it's done right. So you're not seeing any tanks on the streets of Washington. So we're still working on it. It's a slow process. So there's a lot of opinions that are churning. Well, we've come a long way, but some of these things haven't gone away. We just need to readdress them. We need to get back in there. We have work to do. When we're presented with the idea of building walls to keep people out, it makes us discuss how important it is to help people that are asking for our help. When faced with decisions that human beings have no effect on our environment, we go, wait a minute, how can it be? And we're reminded of the stewardship that we need to have for our planet. So, I hope that you can share my optimism. Look at things through the lens of infinite possibility. And that everything is here for us to succeed. It's all about the way we make our way. Getting involved if you need to, or at least not fanning the flames of good and bad and fear. Instill a sense of calm and knowing in your world, and from here, let it spread. May you paddle on calm waters, but have just enough turbulence to make it interesting. Thank you.